I wish that someone had sat me down and like literally said to me, you are doing too much. You need to cut back, or you like this will actually make you sick.
Welcome, guys. Today I am joined by Emma Kim. Emma is in Colorado right now. I'm in Brazil, so we have a bit of a time gap, but we made it work. And I'm really excited because Emma is going to talk about going to college in Colorado, as well as her transition from New Hampshire to Colorado. I think she has a really unique story, and I think she has a lot of interesting and honestly very relatable points that many high schoolers, I think, should hear. We were just talking about the importance of a gap year and kind of how we wish that was less stigmatized. What did Emma say? Like, you don't need to go and have a plan and save beluga whales. Like, you can just go to Iceland and just chill out there, work at a coffee shop. Like, I wish that was more okay in today's society. But yeah, first off, Emma, why don't you introduce yourself? Just tell us like the bare basics before I ask you some more probing questions.
All right. Hi, my name is Emma Kim. I was in the same class in high school as Kevin. I graduated Exeter in 2016, and I am now in my 5th year of college. I'm at the Colorado School of Mines, and I'm studying geological engineering with a focus in geotech.
Okay.
Is
Wow.
that a good basic?
That was great. Yeah, let's start there.
Okay.
So I don't think it's very normal for a lot of kids in America, even, from Exeter to go to Colorado School of Mines. So what led you there? What led you to apply and how'd you end up there?
So basically, my junior year of high school, or my upper year, I was just really interested in geology. Something about it, I was like, yeah, I want to learn more about rocks. And I just felt like a calling to geology to be my next move. So I decided to apply to a bunch of schools to study geology. And my dad's high school best friend actually went to mines in the 80s, and he studied geophysical engineering, and he went on to work in the petroleum industry. So I had a phone call with him, and I must say he's probably the world's greatest salesman because he completely sold me on mines. And I had a tour of it. I think that was also my junior year during spring break. We came to Colorado. We went skiing. Audrey, she's from Colorado. So we met up and we toured Boulder as well. And it was just like such a fun trip. So then when it came to senior year, college admissions, so the first school I heard back from was the University of New Hampshire, because I'm from New Hampshire, and I'd gotten accepted, and that was pretty exciting. And then I got rejected from my early decision school. So I applied ED to Rice, which is a school in Texas, and I was rejected. And that was like soul shattering at the time. I was like, oh my God, I didn't get in. Like, I'm gonna have no future. Like the whole 9 yards about that. So then after early decision comes out, there's like a big break where you're not really hearing back from schools for a while. However, I actually heard back from Mines while I was in Taiwan. They had sent me an acceptance letter that went to my spam folder, and I hadn't seen it. And then my dad actually got an email from the school being like, hello, future parent of a mines student. And he was like, what is this? So I was in Taiwan, so I couldn't call them. So I was like emailing my college counselor, talking to my parents, like, is this real? Did I actually get in? So I found out that I'd gotten in there. And then as, the rest of the decisions came in, I really made my decision based off of the quality of academics. I had gotten into some really, really great schools. And honestly, in hindsight, maybe I would have had a better experience there, but I made the decision purely based on academic quality, and that's how I ended up at Mines.
That is such a cool story. You were interested in rocks. You talked to your father's friend, the greatest salesman.
Yep.
Found out about mines while you were in Taiwan. Okay.
Yep.
Well, that leads me to my next question, which is about the transition. So you graduated from Exeter. What was going on through your mind? Were you feeling burnt out? Were you excited about college? A little bit of both. And then What was that first year at Colorado like?
Yeah, so when I graduated from Exeter, I actually was very opposed to doing kind of like a traditional path graduating from Exeter, I was like very opposed to even applying to Ivy League schools. I just really wanted something different because in high school, I'd always felt like I was just never I never really was the best at anything. So like I had run for multiple positions in like student government and things like that. And I got one position mostly because I ran unopposed and no one else wanted it. So it was things like that where I just felt like I hadn't had the presence in activities that I wanted to have. So when I went to college, I was like, that's going to change. I am going to be involved in as many things as I can be. Like, I don't want to have another year of like another 4 years or however many years of just kind of feeling like, oh, I keep, getting passed over for opportunities of things that I want. So my first year, I actually ended up joining a sorority, which was, yeah. It was very much not like traditional sorority experience because I go to an engineering school that's 70% male. So yeah, I actually ended up joining because I realized I had like 3 female friends and one of them was my RA. And I was like, I think I'd like to meet some girls. So I ended up joining a sorority. But yeah, my first year was actually so fun. I got involved in the peer mentor program at my school, which is like a orientation counselor slash freshman success seminar TA. So I got involved in that program. I got involved in a sorority, and I also started working in a lab. So I was doing a lot. Yeah, the academics were definitely different than I was used to in high school because, like I said, I was at an engineering school. So it was a lot of math and science and not a lot of humanities, which is a big change. And that was probably the hardest thing to adjust to. But yeah, I love Colorado. Just the pace of life here is a little more chill. The people are a little more laid back. And I felt like I was in a place that was a little bit better suited to my personality, just a little more laid back.
Gotcha. Yeah, Colorado definitely has more chill vibes compared to like
Yeah.
New York or one of those metropolitan areas. I think
also a lot more outdoor stuff and that's something that I love. Like I love hiking, I love skiing. So it was nice to be in a place where like you could go into nature. And the city that my school is in, Golden, Colorado, it's like 20 minutes away from Denver. So it's like, if you want to go into the city and do something, it's a 20-minute drive. But then we're also like, there are literally hiking trails that you can walk to from campus, and you could drive to Rocky Mountain National Park. You could drive all kinds of places.
That's wonderful. So I want to ask you a little bit more about your sorority experience. So what is it like?
Yeah.
How do you join a sorority, and what was that process like? And then what does the involvement look like? Do you guys meet every week, or what do you guys talk about? I'm curious.
So I actually had a super non-traditional joining a sorority story. When I came to college, I was like, I do not want to be in a sorority. That's not going to be the scene for me. So I didn't go through formal recruitment or rush. I was like, no, I don't want it. It's not for me. So I didn't go. And then, about a month into school, I was like, I don't know any girls. So there was actually a sorority that was chartering. So it was coming to Mines for the first time that year. And so they started about a month into the school year. They were recruiting people just by like, they had a little booth out in the plaza and they were like, hey, yeah, just come to an info session, see if you like it. And so I showed up to that. And the girls that I met there were just really cool. And it was a lot of upperclassmen too, which was nice because it can be hard your freshman year to meet upperclassmen who can tell you what professors are good for certain classes, or sell you furniture when you're moving into your first apartment. So yeah, there was that. And so I was a charter class member. So I did all of that stuff. And the time commitment, if you're going to be just like a normal level member, it's not that bad. I would say most weeks it's a 1 hour chapter meeting. And then there are optional activities that you can go to beyond that. And then there are some weeks where it's more intense. Initiation week, there's going to be, more activities that you have to go to. And then when you are a new member, most sororities have like a new member process where they kind of like teach you the rules and the history of the sorority, which is like maybe an extra hour a week. However, I did not just want to do the like normal sorority member stuff. So I ended up, as soon as I could, joining the officer branch. So I started out, I was the online media director, which meant that I was in charge of social media and that kind of stuff. And then after that, I became the chief marketing officer, which was, I oversaw that as well as philanthropy and basically anything that had to do with public stuff. If we were going to be putting on an event, I had to help with all the marketing for things like that. And then after that, I became the chief operations officer.
Oh my God, rising through the ranks, Emma.
Yeah, maybe. So as COO, I was in charge of, I'm trying to remember what I did as COO. I was in charge of all member development, which is basically like any kind of punishments that happen. I was the head of like the J board essentially, as well as overseeing risk management, member retention, and I had 2 officers under me. And then lastly, I became the chief executive officer. So I was basically president of the sorority. Wow. And that was a lot of time.
Yeah. Wow. I had a friend in college who was president of her sorority as well. And sometimes I heard it's like not the most glamorous job in the world.
Yeah. That's something. So basically, since in high school, I had been involved in things, but let's just say I was only on JV sports. I wasn't in any of like the really exciting clubs like mock trial or debate. Like I wasn't involved in any of those. I did like the Ocean Conservation Club where we would just go once a week, hang out in the basement and like watch Blue Planet videos. So it wasn't exactly like a...
I wish I had joined that club.
Yeah, that was really fun, actually. And Peter Luff was the co-head.
I did not know that.
And it was technically an ESO club, too. So it was like community service driven. But all we did was like watch Blue Planet in the basement of the student center. It was great. But yeah, like I ran to be senior class president. I ran for DC. Like I ran for a bunch of things and like never got them. So when I was in college, I was like, I'm going to run for things and I'm going to get them. So like I said, I was president of my sorority. At one point I got involved in undergraduate student government as a senior class rep. I was working in a lab. Wow, I became a lead of the peer mentor program. Yeah, it was like, I was just like, oh my gosh, I need to do all of it since I didn't really do any of it in the past. And I definitely don't recommend that. Yeah, so I told Kevin that like one of the things I really wanted to talk about was burnout, because I think it's something that a lot of people experience like coming out of high school. Especially if you were like, not like me and you were president of all the clubs and you were on varsity sports teams, then you get into college and it's kind of like, I'm burnt out. But for me, it happened like, I would say my junior year of college and into my senior year of college, which was when I really was like, oh my God.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about burnout. I mean, how did you manage that? How do you recommend people recover? Is it just like a matter of I'm going to drop some activities, or is it maybe there's a more elaborate kind of self-care system that you have a secret like self-care formula that we should know about and you want to share? Please do tell.
Ooh, I mean, definitely if you reach a point, like if you're leaving high school and you feel like completely and totally drained and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't think about even doing anything right now, then you should consider a gap year, like take some time off. I think that like can only do good things for your mental health. But I know that's not an option for everybody. So if you do decide to go straight into college and you start experiencing symptoms of burnout when you're there, I think one of the most important things to do is to talk to someone about it. So whether that be a friend, an advisor, a family member, a professional. I know most colleges have like counseling services. That's something that I chose to do, and I found that to be super helpful. Actually taking it seriously, because if you don't take it seriously, it can definitely get a lot worse. And that's kind of what happened to me, where it was like, I didn't really listen to myself when, my body was saying like, I'm tired. It was like, I'm not sleeping enough. I'm running from one activity to the next. I never have time for anything. I always feel like I'm, running 10 minutes late and I'm 3 steps short of what I wanted to do. So like if you start feeling that, like, first of all, it's real, let yourself feel that. And second of all, like, that's not a way to be going through life. Like, nobody should be overloading themselves to a point of like constantly being sick. That was a big one for me. It was like constantly being sick and just kind of being like, I guess I'm sick all the time, when like, no, your body shouldn't be sick all the time.
Yeah. So Emma, I'm just wondering if we can dig into the specifics a bit more. Like, at what point was there a specific date or moment where you were like, this is it, like, I can't continue living like this? And then how did you recover from that? Like, what was your healing process, or what did that look like?
So basically, my junior fall, I kind of had like a low-key mental breakdown. It ended up being fine, but I had like this midlife crisis at, what was I, like 20? And I was like, oh my gosh, I hate my major. I hate what I'm doing. So I was previously doing geological engineering with a focus on mineral and petroleum exploration, which would kind of put me on track to go into a career in oil and gas or mining. And I reached this point where I was like, I don't think I would feel good about doing that. Like, I don't think if I went into my career and I was, every day I felt like I was contributing to something that's not good for the environment, like, I don't think I would feel good about myself for doing that. And I was just so tired all the time. I felt like I was getting sick all the time. I was like so stressed that I wouldn't go to class, because I was like, I don't know if you've ever had that, where it's like you're so stressed that you're like, I can't do this. I can't go. Like, I need this hour to do something else. And so that was happening, and I was deciding to change my major. So that was probably when it was like the worst. I'm trying to think about like what I actually did. So my grades were so bad that semester. It was real bad. And then that spring, so I went home over break, had my like breakdown, talked to my mom, and I basically just like didn't change anything in my life and expected it to just magically get better. Which, don't do that. So yeah, I kind of spent the next like year still really overloading myself and just being like, no, but now I changed my major, so I'll be like, it'll all be good now. And then so my senior year, I was like still kind of running, pedal to the metal. And then COVID happened. Everything stopped. Yeah, I basically stopped doing all of my extracurricular activities when the pandemic started. And then when I was coming back for my 5th year, I just didn't start doing anything, like any of them. I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna, take a break from being as involved and kind of see how it goes, and just like actually make a change rather than just be like, I'll keep going. I think one of the biggest things is, if you ever reach a point where you're like so stressed that you're like, I'm so stressed I can't go to class, I'm so stressed like I can't keep up with, my friends, or like if you reach a point where you're so stressed that you're not actually doing anything, that means you probably need to cut back a little. And I think my biggest thing was, I got so dead set on like wanting to do all of these things and wanting to spread myself. So what's that one quote from Lord of the Rings where he's like, I feel like butter spread over too much toast. Like, if you feel like that, you need to actually make a change. So whether that be, cutting back on one of your activities, even if it means that you have to like leave a club that you thought was going to be really fun for you, or one that you have put time into, sometimes that's actually what you need to do. And if you're trying to do too many things, you're not actually going to do the things as well as you would be able to if you were doing fewer.
I 100% agree. I mean, at one point in time, I remember feeling so stressed and overburdened when I was taking several classes at Yale and running the startup.
Yeah.
Another Exonian. That was crazy. I was missing tons of class. But I mean, the main point that Emma is trying to say, I really want to echo this, guys, because it sounds so obvious. It sounds so dumb, but we have to say it. If you are overstressed and you are working yourself to the core, things got to change, man. You are not invincible. Like your 19-year-old self drinking 4 cups of coffee, that is not a sustainable lifestyle, my friend. You can't be doing that for like, I mean,
Yeah.
sure, like a few days is all right, but I'm talking about like chronically, like a few weeks or months
No,
is a red flag. You know what I mean?
it reached a point where I was like chronically stressed, chronically overtired, and just like expected my body and mind to be able to perform the way that I wanted them to. And I think like, especially the people who are watching your videos, Kevin, it's like very
Mm.
high achieving young people. When you are high achieving, it's even harder to kind of let yourself cut back because you feel like you're disappointing everyone, especially if you felt like, I was able to do, 15 million things in the past, but now all of a sudden I can't. And it's like, well, you probably weren't actually able to do all of those things. You were just, maybe your caffeine tolerance was lower at the time or something like that. But
No, no,
yeah, and I
seriously.
think I wish that someone had sat me down and like literally said to me, you are doing too much. You need to cut back or you like this will actually make you sick. Because I didn't think like, you never think that stress and sleep deprivation are going to like affect your body. In high school and in early
Mm,
college, I felt like I was going to be invincible. I'm
yeah.
young. I'm going to be healthy. It reached a point where I like was sick from it. And it was like the only cause was just stress and sleep deprivation.
Yeah,
I think
I'm getting kind
also,
of haunted, Emma, because I remember like at Exeter, people would like pull out their card and be like, I slept 5 hours. Like, how many hours did you sleep? And they would like compare, like, oh, how hard are you working?
no,
It was
it
like
was
such a
like
toxic.
cool. It was so cool to be like, oh yeah, I only got 4 hours of sleep last night.
Yeah.
And now
And
like I sleep for like 9 hours and I'm like, that was lit. Best day ever.
no, I
Yeah.
100% agree.
And
I
I
mean, I
think,
still found that attitude sometimes at Yale and in
oh
college.
yeah,
People would be like, "Oh yeah, midterm season, you know how it is. Like pull 2 all-nighters in a row." It's like, "Oh, you got this, man. Power through." Like,
yeah,
no, dude. I would pat you on the shoulder, and be
yeah.
like, "Are you okay? Like, you should like drop a
If you
class,
ever
maybe." Like,
if you reach a point where you need to pull all-nighters all the time, you're, regularly sleeping less than 6 hours, like talk to your professors. Because that's another thing I learned is that professors, if you like talk to them and tell them what's going on, especially if you tell them that you're like looking to get help for it, if you're like, hey, I'm having a really hard time right now with everything, like I can't manage everything that's going on. Like I'm feeling burnt out and exhausted and like I'm seeking help for it. They're usually super understanding because
mm,
professors, believe it or not, professors and teachers, they don't actually want you to be like sleep deprived and stressed all the time. They understand that you should be getting sleep every
yeah.
night. And I
We,
wish I'd kind of had that mindset earlier on to just kind of actually be honest about when I'm struggling. Because I think that's another thing is like kind of lying to yourself and others that like everything's fine when like clearly it isn't.
Yeah, it clearly is not. And as young people, we either think we're totally invincible and we're just gonna power
Mhm.
through with more caffeine, or, like we're not good at this. I know kids who just like self-medicate and you turn to like drugs and alcohol, you like release steam
Yeah.
on the weekends. It makes things worse. Like you can't sleep. Like it's hard, it's tough. It's
No,
really
that was
easy
a
to
big
get.
one
Mm,
too. Like especially when you're at college. I in high school it was super easy for me to like completely stay away from all of that. I like Kevin and I were saying I'm from Exeter, so I was a day student. I lived at home with my parents. It was very easy for me to just kind of like not have those, temptations around me because like if you live in the dorm, there's going to be people who are doing things there. They're going to be, inviting you, talking to you about it. But if you live at home and everyone knows that your mom's a teacher, you don't get invited. It was really easy to stay away from. But then when you get to college, there's parties going on. There's like lots of fun things that you could be doing. I wouldn't say that I'm like a huge partier, but definitely like when I was at my most stressed and most burnt out, that's also when I was like going out the most. And
yeah,
I would get such bad FOMO. I'd be like, oh my
mm.
gosh, I have to go. Otherwise, I won't know what happened.
The FOMO is so real. And, you sometimes get in these thought patterns like, I'm in college. What am I doing? Just like sitting
Yeah.
alone, like resting. like, I'm so lame. Like, dude, you are not lame. You are taking care of
Yeah.
yourself. That's like a very noble thing. Or other
Hmm.
kind of toxic thought patterns where people think like, oh, I can't drop an activity. Like, I'm in
Hmm.
charge. I've given up so much. I've made it this far. But at the same time, it's like, if you're not giving 100% of yourself, you're also kind of letting your team down in that sense as well. So even if you need to take
Yeah.
like a break for a week or two, like your team will help lift you up. I think,
Yeah.
just as professors are understanding, like all the kids in your clubs, your fellow teammates, co-heads, whatever, can help
Yeah.
pick you up too if you
And
express
if
that
they're not
vulnerability.
understanding, that's probably a person you shouldn't be around. One thing I do want to talk about a little bit is like
Hmm.
engineering school, because I do think
Yeah.
it's definitely different from like all the other folks you've had on. Because the school I go to, it's like a very small school. It's like 5,000 students, including graduate school. Yeah, it's real little. And it's only STEM. Actually, that's a lie. There is an econ major, has very few kids in it, but it exists. So it's like, yeah, basically you're doing STEM or you're doing that one econ major, which is focused on like energy. So it's
Mm.
very, very one dimensional, I guess. Like, obviously, there are classes that are not STEM that you will take. But for them, like everyone's major is going to be STEM. Everyone's career futures are going to be very similar. And I think something that's big in engineering school is like people taking very, very traditional career paths. Oh, I went and interviewed at this oil company or this defense contractor. I'm going to go work there until I die. Like, whereas I think if you're at a school that has more majors, there's understanding that different careers exist. So yeah, if any of you are thinking about engineering schools, like there's mine that I go to, but there's so many. There's Harvey Mudd in California. There's like MIT, even like so many, Caltech, so many schools that are very, very one dimensional. And I think if you were a person who enjoyed humanities as well in high school, those are going to be difficult environments for you, because that's definitely the boat I was in. Like, I
Mm.
was originally thinking of going to like a
Mhm.
liberal arts school where I could also study poetry, but I was swayed into mines. And I think it's just a little bit more challenging because there just aren't as many options. So if you ever reach a point where you're like, oh, maybe I don't want to be an engineer, you don't really have that many options of like other things to do. So if you're someone and you're like, I 100% know, like if you're Tarun and you're like, yeah, I want to do comp sci, nothing else, then going to a tech school or a STEM school will be fine. Like, you probably won't care. You don't need to change your major. You don't need to explore. But if you are someone who's like a little bit more uncertain, it's definitely not going to be the right fit.
That is really awesome advice. Yeah, I know some kids who are totally allergic to like writing papers, and
Mm-hmm.
they
Yeah.
know, they know. And other kids who are on the fence, switch majors. I just spoke with Julia Leatham, and she changed from a chemical
Oh, yeah.
engineering major to film during her like second year. It was like a total turnaround.
Yeah.
Well, let's end on a bit of a high note, Emma. Maybe you can tell us about some
Yeah.
of your favorite memories, your highest highs and mines.
Ooh. I'm trying to think of some things that have been really exciting. One of the things that's really fun about, I'm just going to like plug for geology and geological engineering right here, because I think earth science is underappreciated in high school. It's, they're kind of like, oh, it's a soft science, or it's like a fake news science, the world's flat, whatever. I love geology. It's a really great field of STEM because there are opportunities to actually get outside. And it's one of the most hands-on things you can study. Like, you're actually looking at rocks, you're feeling them, you're licking them, you're smelling them. Like, you are really getting like in there and really engaging with it. And that's something that's been really fun for me. Also, I'm very interested in like the construction-y side of what I'm doing. So I took a class about tunneling, which was probably one of my favorite classes that I've ever taken. It was like this intensive class where we just learned everything about the tunneling industry. And it was so cool. It's like an opportunity that I don't think I would have had anywhere else. Like, every school and every major, they have these really unique things that they're going to offer you, but you're not necessarily going to be able to take advantage of them unless you really explore them. Like, Yale has that like happiness class, and there are just so many like cool classes at every school. And I think it's really important that you try to take advantage of where you're at, because everyone will have like a different thing to offer you. So
Totally.
um,
All right, then we might wrap it up here. I am
Yeah.
going to hang out with Emma and we can chat off the record for a little bit. But thank you so much for your time, Emma, and taking
Thank you,
time.
Kevin.
And I know you're not in your normal spots. We were messing around with the lighting, making sure you look good.
Oh
But
yeah,
yeah,
sorry about these glasses, the like green
it's all good.
reflect.
Well, I think the viewers will survive.
Yeah. I know that you asked people to respond to comments. I will do my best to do that. But if people want to reach out to me, I'm pretty good at looking at Instagram. So yeah, you can just shoot me a message on Instagram and I will be looking for any of that if anyone has questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Emma, for your generosity. All right, guys, that's it for this time, and we'll catch you at the next one. Bye.